Hello and welcome to Easy Gluten Free. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make that delicious, easy to make lemon herb ricotta salata that I promised I'd show you how to make when I made that pasta alla cacca video a couple of weeks ago. Don't I look like the kind of person that keeps her promises? And beyond just showing you this cheese seasoned in a savory application, I'll also be dividing this batch in half to show you how it's equally as good in sweet dishes, like this fantastic plate I made myself for breakfast. Okay, now to make this, you're going to need a half gallon of whole milk, 1 cup of heavy cream, and try to use organic dairy products if you can. Unless of course you're broke like I am, then just use whatever they've got on hand at the supermarket. You'll also need just under a tablespoon of salt, 1 lemon, and you'll need the juice and the zest. You might even need a second lemon depending on how juicy your lemons happen to be. We'll need 1/4 cup for the recipe. And the zest will get mixed into the herb mixture, along with some coarse sea salt, a little garlic powder, some Italian seasoning, and a few crushed red pepper flakes. You'll need about 2 tablespoons of this herb mixture, and the ratio should be adjusted to suit your own tastes. Now to make the cheese, place a colander on top of a large pot and line it with 4 layers of cheesecloth. Make sure you have an extra fine variety so that none of the curds slip through during the straining process. Now add the milk to a large, heavy-bottomed pot, add the cream, and place it onto a medium-low heat. Then stir to combine. Add the salt, give it another stir. Now basically you're going to want to stay with the pot, stirring regularly to make sure that a skin isn't forming on top and that the bottom doesn't scorch. And we're trying to heat the milk to a temperature of between 175 and 185 degrees. A kitchen thermometer is really the safest bet here, but if you happen to be eyeballing it like I did, you'll want to look for the point at which the milk just starts to steam, you begin to see the top looking a little foamy, and bubbles begin to form around the edges of the pan. Add the lemon juice and give it a stir. Turn off the heat, and pretty quickly you should start to see the cheese curds begin to separate from the whey. Now the curds look like white, fluffy, solid pieces floating around in the whey, which looks like a more clear, yellowish liquid. And that's the part that gets strained through the cheesecloth and discarded later. Let it rest for about 10 minutes, then ladle the cheese mixture into the prepared colander so that the whey can drain out. You could even pick up the whole pot and pour it through the cheesecloth. That is, if you feel confident handling a big pot of steaming hot liquid. But with my hand strength not being quite what it used to be, I'll stick with the ladle method. Let the cheese sit for about 5 minutes. Then gather up the cloth, tie it like a bundle, and hang it over an empty pot for further draining. Now when it comes to tying this, it's nice to have a loop of string made in advance, so that when the time comes, you can slip one end of the loop right through the other end and make the job a lot simpler. This also makes it easier to remove the string later as well. After about 2 hours of hanging, depending on how dry you want this to be, remove the cheese from the cloth by just rolling it out onto a clean plate. Now half this batch I decided to leave plain and just simply crumbled it into a container for storage. The other half I tightly wrapped in plastic wrap, which really works well to hold the cheese together as you squeeze and mold it into a more uniform log shape. Then after about a half-hour trip to the fridge to further solidify this cheese log, I sprinkled my herb mixture onto a plate, rolled the log into that lemon zest, herb, and coarse sea salt mixture, then rewrapped it and put it back in the fridge. This cheese is best after a few days of ripening for the flavors to develop a little more. And for the plain cheese, I spread both sides of my favorite bread with a little butter, tossed it onto my cast iron grill pan, Gave it the old quarter turn rotation to get those really cool grill marks that everyone loves to see when they hear the word grill come into play. Topped it with a nice pile of that beautiful homemade ricotta, a sprinkle of cinnamon, a handful of blueberries, a couple of walnuts, and a generous drizzle of this beautifully fragrant blueberry honey I just so happened to pick up a few months back. It always seems like an extra added luxury when the honey in your dish actually mirrors the flavor of the fruit that you're serving. This whole plate was deliciously decadent, yet it had a lighter, cleaner feel than most typical desserts. And for the lemon herb variety, grill another piece of that bread, top it off with some of that salty herbed cheese, add some fresh herbs, a few more red pepper flakes if you want, then christen the whole thing with your best extra virgin olive oil. Then this little appetizer is ready to serve. With the crunchy grilled bread against the salty, buttery ricotta salata, and the fresh herbs to hit the other end of the flavor spectrum against the dried herbs of the cheese. Oh yeah, I think you're gonna love this one. And if you'd like to print a copy of today's recipe, you can always visit my blog in the link below. And for more easy gluten-free recipes, don't forget to subscribe. See you again soon.